Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can. Good.
Okay, right, great. So first of all, thanks a lot for giving us the opportunity to actually be here and talk to a lot of prestigious people from the judiciary, from the Department of Justice. I'll keep it straight to the point since we've got a paucity of time. Uh, so a very quick introduction about Legistify. Legistify makes it easy for large Indian companies to manage and resolve small legal disputes. This is what we do in a nutshell. Our founding team consists of me and my co-founder Pratik on the call. I, being a non-lawyer by education, having faced a couple of legal issues myself while I was in college, started thinking about this problem out loud. Me and Pratik had known each other through a bunch of mutual friends, and before joining Legistify, he'd worked with for over 10 years with a couple of international and national top-notch law firms. The reason why we actually opened Legistify up and specifically together was because both of us were consumers or both of us were victims or the consumers of the product that we are trying to create right now first and then get into the system. This is what also stands in our ethos of building Legistify also. We believe that through a direct structured approach, the kind of system that we currently have with minor tweaks, this is something that would change the entire way in which people access legal, be it an enterprise or be it an end user. What I would like to emphasize upon is that the underlying structure is something that we need to discuss about, right? So one of the things that we do as an organization, as an enterprise, as a for-profit enterprise who also does some pro bono work, is we want to empower people. We want to create a level of trust and transparency in the entire system, so that access to justice becomes meaningful. So when I look at the current roadblock to justice, a very specific example I would like to give everybody is that the current data infrastructure is absolutely unstructured. So for example, in our country, we've got 10,000 plus Indian courts, right from the apex Supreme Court to local courts like consumer disputes and all of that. There are 10 plus data sources right now. So for example, if you want to look at a consumer dispute update for your matter, you would need to go to Confinet. If you want to look at, say, a district court matter, you would need to go to e-court website, right? This basically leads to three key problems that we have identified as users first, and then as an organization who would try to work on it. Number one is it brings in lot of inconsistency, right? So all these data points are absolutely fragmented across multiple sources. There is no correlation between two data sources, even if they would mean the same. Just to give you a very quick example, let's say MACT is written across differently across multiple district court websites. Somebody would write it as MACT, somebody would write it at maybe M.A.C.T, right? So there's a lack of correlation. Secondly, this often leads to infrequency in this data being populated and updated. You know, if there are multiple sources, multiple stakeholders trying to update multiple things at different times, it would certainly result in challenges in timely updation. Most importantly, this is not truly open source. This is not truly open to use. Number three is that due to these problems, this becomes inconclusive. So this present data set that we have, there is no truly measurable data or insight that we could draw out of this data set, since this is fragmented, infrequent. For us as entrepreneurs, as people who've been in the industry for quite some time, we believe that the journey to, for access to justice would come in, and this is something that we've sort of coined ourselves. Actually, my co-founder Pratik had actually done this. We like to call it as UJI. This is something similar to UPI. So it's a unified justice architecture is what we would like for you guys to, for everybody to think about, which is something truly open source. So let's assume one data set, one data source, and everything open source for everybody to use. As as a technology entrepreneur, I can actually literally give you like 10 use cases right now that would be relevant when you do adopt UJI. So for example, for judiciaries, when this data is relevant and people start working on this data, it would actually help us evaluate actual code performances. It would actually help us put up resources or allocate them properly. So a particular code is performing well, we do something We try and copy their model and adopt it across multiple other codes. We actually look at the pendency rate that a particular court has or a particular department has, right? We actually try and find out the solutions to these problems. Currently, the problems are unidentified since we've got no underlying basis of actually identifying what the problem could be. Number two is lawyers. So for individual lawyers, this will essentially help them do an end-to-end better practice management. They would basically be given access to tools which would help them not just get timely updates on time, but also sort of understand how matters would function in a court of law, right? They will also be able to showcase their proficiency objectively. This is something I personally believe in as a first time entrepreneur. I had faced a lot of issues during the initial years uh, to say raise funds, get investor interest, get customer interest, right? I believe that this is true for every profession. So as a first generation lawyer, right, what do you do? How do you tell that this is something which falls under my proficiency? And these are actual facts. So as a lawyer in my first year, I had done 100 plus consumer disputes across these three courts, and my win ratio is about 70 odd percent, and I'm constantly improving. Why don't I get more work out of it? And lastly, the litigant. For us, and when I say litigant, it could be an enterprise, it could be an individual. The most important thing, as per me, in my personal belief, at the risk of being sounding candid, is that there's a lack of, or there's a limited trust and transparency factor involved when it comes to a common man like myself to go out there and access judiciary. So even I would know like a lot of lawyers, like a lot of other people, but as an end user, I would still think 10 times to actually go that way. And there are only two reasons for my understanding. Uh, the trust factor isn't that strong because there is not enough transparency in the system. As an end user, if I were given a chance to look at how my matter could flow in, who are the kind of lawyers that I could go to, what are the kind of courts that I have in my options, right? What is the court doing in essential in something extra of this particular field that I as a user would be comfortable going around with? So I think the last thing that we would want to say here is that as an enterprise, when you adapt UGI, you essentially help technology folks like me collaborate and truly make legal and technology meet. We as an organization, since we've got a forte in building technology and across these systems, I would love to be a part of any initiative that the government or the department is planning. We would be happy to provide the right technology infrastructure for this to become truly open source so that other entrepreneurs like me would start working in the legal tech domain again and again. Right. Thank you.